So how are the science assessments changing for 4th or 5th graders and 8th graders in New York State between the 2022 and 2023 administrations? And more importantly, what does this mean for science teachers and students? Hey folks, my name is Brendan Finch, and I'm a co-founder of Inner Orbit, where all we do is write phenomena and assessments and activities for students to make sense of novel phenomena. In 2023, New York State is changing the form of its elementary and intermediate science tests. In 2022, the tests were the same as they've always been, looking at what students know. In 2023 and beyond, these assessments are going to be geared towards students' ability to use the science and engineering practices, or the SEPs, to make sense of the world around them. And that will probably take the form of giving students phenomena, or specific instances or examples of things that happen in the real world, for them to apply what they've learned. So let's dive into the old test real quick. In the 2022 test, students had to label levels of organization in an ecosystem, or they had to identify different stages in the reproductive cycle. Now, all of the images we're seeing in 2022 and all of the text that's given is really superfluous. Students either know the levels of organization in an ecosystem, or they do not know that. Students either know the different stages in mammalian reproduction, or they don't know that. But for the tests in 2023, based on the sample items that we've seen, they're inherently different. So students need to look at the phenomena. They need to read through a couple of paragraphs and look at some images, charts, graphs, and data. They need to take in a bunch of information, and then they need to interpret it and apply what they've learned. So the first phenomena we're going to look at is the plate tectonics item, where we're looking at fossil parks in 2 different places in New York State. Now the phenomena gives a bunch of information, and students have to construct an explanation. They need to cite evidence to support their explanation. What that means is that students may totally understand the way plate tectonics worked and the way that parts of the earth moved from one place to another. New York State moved from a tropical area near the equator into a higher latitude, which is where it is currently located. But to answer these questions, students have to pull evidence from the phenomena that's given. They cannot rely on their background knowledge, but instead they need to rely on evidence that is given to them in this phenomena, or in this cluster. In this case, they need to use constructing explanations and designing solutions to explain how rock strata can be used to show that the Earth has changed over time. And so Thatcher Park and Penn-Dixie Park are just examples that are used as a vehicle for students to explain what they've learned, or construct an explanation around what they've learned. And looking through all of the other items on the former intermediate and elementary science tests and what's coming up in the upcoming science test, all of the items have the same thing in common. Previously, students were just asked what they knew, and now students need to apply what they've learned through a science and engineering practice. Now, what does that mean for teaching and learning in New York State to prepare students for this new assessment? Well, it means that your students need to be familiar with phenomena. They need to go through their lessons and then have instances where they apply what they've learned to something new, where they look at something they've never seen before, they pull evidence, they draw models, and they analyze and interpret data to make sure that not only do they understand what you talked about, but they can apply it through a novel phenomena, through a new lens. And that will help them prepare for this upcoming science test. On InnerOrbit.com, we have thousands of these assessment items that we've been writing over the course of the last few years to help other states prepare for their statewide tests. And not surprisingly, what New York has come out with is very similar to what other states have been doing in the past. So if you're interested in diving into Inner Orbit and taking a look at our clusters of 3-dimensional assessment items and reports to help drive student learning and teaching, then click on the link below in the description, and we would love to hear from you and get you set up with a free pilot of our assessments and our clusters and our phenomena, so that you and your students can be more successful on the New York State intermediate and elementary science assessments. We also have items for high school, but this video is focused on the elementary and intermediate assessments because that's what they've released test items for. We're looking forward to hearing from you, and I hope this was helpful. Take care.